I would like to welcome you all. I would like to welcome you all to the Ladies Presbyterian Women Spring Brunch. Our theme this year is Friendships in Bloom. We are excited for all of us to nurture our friendships and watch them blossom throughout this year. The lily of the valley symbolizes Christian living. We ask, seek, and knock for the beauty, fruitfulness, and fragrance of Christ in our everyday lives. The church and our homes are decorated with the beauty of flowers and their fragrance. We enrich our homes and hearts with the one and only lily of the valley and spread the fragrance of Christ to those around us. Friends are flowers in the garden of the heart. Welcome to our spring brunch. At this time, if Alice would come forward. There she is. Yes.
Good morning, ladies. I'm the one that sent the invitations out, and I had a list that was probably 3 years old. So I know that some of the churches that were on my list were not in existence any longer, and we have some new ones. So I will call the list, and if that church no longer exists, then somebody please say, it's not here anymore, so I can update this. And then at the end, if there are those from churches that I don't have on the list, I want to know that too, because I'd like to have a list that has all the churches on it, so we're more up to date. If, when I call the church, you would just raise your hand, I won't make you stand up. Oh, make you stand up. If they're like me, the old knees sometimes don't want to stand that quickly, so I know how that works. The first church I have is Antioch Community Baptist Church. Is there anyone from that church here? Okay. Now I know that the Assumption Catholic Church and the other one went together for Divine Mercy. So let's just say those from Divine Mercy. Okay. Keep them up there so I can check. I got 8 calling. Okay. Thank you. Community Connections Baptist Church. No longer. Oh, thank you. Oh, like Church of Christ. Now, it has Edgerton Southern Baptist Church. What about that one? That's not existing anymore. Thank you. Edgerton United Methodist Church. 2. Fellowship Bible Church. First Baptist Church. Always there. Presbyterians till the last. Gardner Church of the Nazarene. Compass Ministries. Seven. Great. Gardner Friends Church. Grace Baptist Church. Indian Creek Community Church. They're not here? Okay. Thank you. Journey for Life Ministry. see without these things and sometimes not, so. King of Kings Lutheran Church.
And we got 2 more coming here and 2 more there.
Life Stream Christian Church. Okay. New Life Community Church. The Reaching Out for Souls Ministry. Greater Than Life Ministries. Restoration Church. Gardner Faith Chapel. Now, whom did I miss? Anybody else? How many were from New Life Community? 1? Okay, anybody else? Anyone else? Anyone else? I thank you for the help in crossing off these ones that don't exist anymore, and I am thrilled to see all of you here this morning. Enjoy.
Okay, for the reason we're here now, to eat. In front of your plates, everyone should have a bookmarker. These are yours to take home. So, at this time, I will say a prayer so that we may begin to eat. Dearest Father, we appreciate you bringing us all together today. Thank you for all your help and blessings. Thank you for this delicious brunch we are about to partake. Thank you for all the wonderful ladies that have prepared the food for us. Let us remember those who are less fortunate and help us to be there for them as you are always here for us. We pray in your name. Amen. Jolynn is now going to give directions on the next part of who goes first and who is going to go last.
While the rest of the waiting tables are going through, in the middle of your table you have a little bucket, and these are some get-to-know-you questions. They're not a math quiz or anything, or history. They're pretty easy. They have answers. Nobody's going to know. All right? Feel free. Now, we do have people that cheated and brought their own questions. I'll just give you an example. Let's do the one. What two trees
are specifically mentioned in the Garden of Eden?
Anybody know? It isn't the apple tree, because they already told us.
The tree of life.
Yes. Now, is that you people? Yes.
all had plenty to eat. It was very, very good. I would like to thank all the ladies that prepared the food and served the food. Thank you so much. If we can get them to step out from the kitchen. Not happening. But I thought they did a great job. Thank you so much. At this time, if Lynn Muldrick could come up and do a devotion for us, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks. I hope everyone got full.
Good morning, ladies.
Thank you for coming.
You help?
I made mine more
My little devotional is called "You Are an Encouragement to Others." And the verse that it's written from is Thessalonians 5:11, which says, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." Encouraging people are such a blast to be around. They give you hope when you're feeling blue. They offer a pat on the back when you need encouragement, and they show up at just the right time when you need a shoulder to cry on. Callie, a young wife and mother, was a terrific encouragement to her friends. Everyone just knew just who to call when they needed a kind word or compassionate hug. She was happy to oblige. She garnered the nickname Cheerful Callie because of her positive spin on life and the never-ending smile on her face. Then things began to fall apart for Callie. Her husband lost his job. Her children began to struggle in school. She tried to remain encouraging to others, but found it difficult. And who could she turn to? Everyone came to her, not the other way around. She had to be strong for them. So Callie tried to pretend everything was fine. She put on a happy, albeit forced, smile, stiffened her backbone, and kept focusing on others, never confessing her needs to her friends and family members. For a while, things went okay. She said the usual encouraging things to others, but secretly wished someone would give her a pat on the back. She quoted scripture to friends, but wondered if those same words would ever penetrate her heart again. Eventually, a good friend picked up on the real Callie, the one she wasn't showing to others. With that friend's help, Callie found comfort and healing, though it took her a while to open up and truly share her heart. After all, sharing the icky stuff might ruin her too good to be true testimony. Oh, sweet woman of purpose, don't you see? Encouragement works both ways. We are called to be an encouragement, yes, but we're all called to receive encouragement when the situation calls for it. So sure, be a cheerful Callie, but when things around you are crumbling, don't put on your game face. Don't pretend that everything is perfect when it's not. People want to see the real you so that they can give you the encouragement you need when you need it. And let's face it, our testimony isn't ruined when we get gut honest about things. In fact, it's strengthened because people see us as a real person who has struggles, a person who overcomes with the Lord's help. Get real. Those two words are more than just a passing phrase. Get real, woman of purpose. In doing so, you will become the greatest encouragement of all and a really good friend.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce our guest speaker today. Her name is Poppy Zurcher. We are very privileged to have her as a member of our church. Absolutely love this woman. Poppy is a daughter, a sister, and an aunt. She is a wife, a mother, a grandmother. Poppy is a 7-time cancer survivor, whose attitude is always gratitude. Time magazine describes her having the most positive attitude. Coping with Cancer has written, if anyone needs a shot of courage and hope, seek out Poppy. The Johnson County Lifestyle magazine featured Poppy twice in their publications. Once after she was given the title, Most Inspirational Woman in Johnson County. Yes. And 8 months later, when they wrote of her faith, hope, and courage. Poppy, on the other hand, simply believes she is blessed, and because of it, makes it a point to share her story with everyone who may be interested. Not for pity or woe is her, rather to hopefully touch hearts and have others also fight and be proactive in their health battles. She believes that we are blessed to bless others and tries doing this every day of her life. Please welcome Poppy Zurcher.
Thank you so much. I appreciate and love that all of you chose to come and hear my talk today. And as she said, my hope every time I speak is that I can touch one heart, that I can give hope to one person in the room, and then I know God still wants to use me. So for that, I'm very thankful. On a light note, I want to start out, have you played your game that's on the table? Well, I'm going to tell you what I did. We haven't played ours, but I just changed my phone cover yesterday. My father used to love finches, and I have so many that come on my deck, and the one in particular will eat and then turn around and face the family room where I sit. And if I ignore it, it comes to the window and pecks at me. So this picture turned out so pretty the other day that one of my friends here has it because I just love it. And they've been thinking that's my dad coming to see me. So that's why I have that. Ladies, I was born and raised in Greece in a time, can you hear me okay?
Pretty hard.
Is that okay if I hold on to the mic?
I think that's great.
That might be easier, because I move around. Thank you, is that better? All right. I started by saying I was born and raised in Greece in a time and in a culture where not being perfect when you're born is terrible. It's considered a curse. Well, I was a big surprise to my parents. I was their 11th child. There were only 8 of us in my lifetime, but Mom and Dad had 11. I was born when my mom was 50 and my dad was 57 years old. She thought she had some bad disease, but because they were poor and they didn't go to doctors, she tried to doctor herself, but kept getting weight on and kept getting sicker. And finally, the church ladies from our church took up a collection and sent her to see a doctor. Well, it's a small town and everybody knows everybody and everybody's business. And after the doctor examined my mom, he said, Athena, how many children have you had? And she says, well, you know, 10. And he says, well, did you forget how you got them? And she was embarrassed by it because they don't talk like that. You know, he says, well, I'm here to tell you, you're not sick. You're about to have number 11. Well, she was very embarrassed by it. What are people going to think about her having a baby at that age? Because 50 was old at that time. So then she thought, this is not a happy thing for me. This is going to be a curse. We can't afford another child. So no, Mama was not happy that I came along when I did. My dad, on the other hand, the whole town talks about it. He just rejoiced and told everybody that we're not having a baby, we're having a blessing. So to him, it was a blessing before I was born. And some people even admit that they thought he was losing it because, come on now, you know, you've got all these other wonderful kids. What's going to make this one so different? He says, I don't know, but I feel it in my bones. Well, all of us were born with the help of a midwife, because again, money was tight and people didn't go to the doctor. When Mom went into labor, there was no one around, and she didn't know what to do. My oldest brother, who was 23 years older than I, happened to come home unexpectedly, and Mom says, I don't have time to talk to you, you don't have time to eat, wash your hands and I'll tell you what to do. So he delivered me, and I'm thankful. They tell me that I was born wearing a smile. Can you imagine that? They said I was the happiest baby till about the time I turned 12 months old, and then all I did was cry. It was obvious I was in pain, but nobody knew why. Finally, Mom noticed that I had a mark on my knee, and she thought that maybe in turning or trying to crawl around I got hurt, ignored it. Didn't even tell my papa about it. But this mark was getting bigger and bigger, and it finally covered my whole knee. And it became an open sore to where you could almost see the bone. Again, she kept it from my dad all this time. Parents during that time were not the lovey-dovey parents that we're all used to here. It was a hard life, everybody worked. As long as the children were taken care of, that's all they could do. I don't remember sitting on either parent's lap and being told I was a loving-little child. Not because I wasn't loved, but that was the culture. So when the sore became so bad and I became so terribly upset and crying all the time and feverish, Mom decided she better tell Papa about it. He looked at it and he said, we need to talk to our priest. So they went and talked with him and they said, we don't know what to do. God wouldn't have given us a child at this age just to take her from us. What can you do to help us? He said, I'll talk to the ladies of the church and see if they can fundraise and get some money going to send her to the doctor. So they got enough money put together for me to be seen at Children's Hospital in Athens, Greece, which at that time was about a 3.5, 4-hour drive. It's now 45 minutes. But you're talking dirt roads and not like it is now. Well, the money afforded my mom and I to ride in the back of an open truck for those 3.5 hours to go to the doctor. There was no money for my dad, and the men do the business, not the women. So he hitchhiked to meet us there. We got there, and about 3 days later, he was going crazy because we didn't know anything, I guess. And finally, the doctor came out and said, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're wasting your money coming here. This child will never walk. And if she does walk, she's not going to live long enough. So just take her home. The only thing we can do is maybe amputate the leg. Mom cried, but Mom always cried. And my dad got angry. And he says, don't you go telling me that. Do you know how old I am? Do you know how poor I am? And do you know how much I do for my community and my church? God would not punish us by giving us this child just to take her from us. You're not going to cut her leg. Do what you can to save her. Well, the only thing they could do was remove bone. Every time anything happened, they would cut some more bone off and send me home. There was no money for medication, and 72 years ago, there were no treatments, at least not in Greece. So they would take me home for Mama and Papa to take care of me and keep me as comfortable as they could. All I remember is the pain, till now. When I was about 4.5 years old, my dad was a man of all trades. His main job was being a deep sea fisherman, and then when that was not in season, he would do catering. He was an exceptional cook and baker, and a man of many talents. But when he and Mom would work together on a job, they would take me with them, and she would put a blanket on the dirt floor wherever they were, so they could keep an eye on me while they worked. They heard a crash, and Poppy had found her way to a table leg, and I stood up. And they said I was about 4.5 years old, but in standing up, I pulled the tablecloth and knocked everything off. Mom got furious, didn't pay attention to what I had done, but she got furious at the damage. And I guess my dad picked me up and started dancing up and down. I told you she's blessed, and I told you she'll be fine. Well, it didn't stop then, because again, cancer kept coming back, and more bone was being taken away. They tell me that when the days were bad, you could hear me blocks away, crying. But again, not much to be done. When Papa would come home at night, he would always come in the room, especially when I was sick, and sit on my bed. I never remember him asking me how I was doing. I never remember him saying, "Do you hurt again?" or "How do you feel?" Instead, he would sit and tell me about his day. And it got my mind off of what I was thinking. This one particular night, he was stretching and he was tired, and he said, "Oh, if only you weren't so little. If only you didn't hurt so much." And I was just listening to him. And he says, "You know, if you weren't hurting so much, you could help me. I have to bake all this bread for tomorrow morning, and I'm such an old man and so tired, but you could help me. That's okay, the time will come that you will." Well, I adored him, and I said, "Well, Papa, I can help you now." "No, you can't." He says, "You're so little you can't even reach the table, and you're hurting." Now, I'm not hurting that much, but he knew. Well, I convinced him, I guess, that I could help him if he showed me how. Now, mind you that my first 5 siblings and my mom and dad never went to school, so we had nothing in writing. All the recipes were up here, and unfortunately, most of all my cooking and baking is up here. So you had to watch and learn. So he would assemble all the ingredients, and he'd pick me up and put me on this board that he had on top of sawhorses, because we didn't have a big enough table. And he'd say, "Okay, I need the flour, that's the flour, or I need the baking powder," or whatever he needed. And then he says, "Now we're going to measure. And you have to remember, we can't make a mistake. This is a half a cup, and 2 handfuls is 1 cup. Don't let me make a mistake." Well, I thought I was helping him, and I would repeat everything he told me. He wasn't teaching me how to make bread. He was teaching me how to focus away from my pain and keep this mind busy. Finally, I got to where I had memorized all the steps, and every time we bake bread, I'd say, "Well, now can you do that, and I'll bake the bread. And I'll do the kneading." And he would let me. Of course, he went back to fix things up because I wasn't kneading it as well as a little girl, but I didn't know that. Then one day he said, "I have an idea." I said, "What's that, Papa?" And he said, "Well, I used to be so hurt because nobody called my name. Everybody had a name. And I still get emotional. My name was the crippled child. And I would get so mad. I thought, no, my name is Poppy." But nobody would use that name. So my dad said, "I'm going to take your bread to market tomorrow. And I'm going to tell everybody my little Poppy made it. And people will eat it and love it. And they'll say, 'Little Poppy made this bread.' And they won't call you crippled anymore." And it worked. I'm almost 72. And when we go home to visit, family of the people that have now passed, but the story has stayed in town, will come to welcome us. And they always say, "How's your leg?" They want to see the leg. "You know, we hear about little Poppy's bread. Are you going to make any while you're here?" "My bread is not that special." It's the idea behind it. So he taught me the greatest lesson in my life, focusing away from the pain. Something I try to share with people that I meet who are going through critical times. We can lay in bed and hurt and cry and blame and do whatever. Or we can get up and get busy and make ourselves do something. That something doesn't have to be monumental. That something doesn't have to be an attention getter. What works for me is doing something that I promise to somebody, because it holds me accountable. Because then I can't say I don't feel like doing it, because I know they're expecting it. And that keeps me going. I began working before my 7th birthday, baking bread and baking pastries for a wealthy family in our town. About a month after I started working for them, my boss lady came to me and said, "Little Poppy, I need you to go to such and such stores for the ingredients that we'll need, because we'll need to make new things we're expecting special friends to visit us from the United States of America. And I went, are they cowboys or Indians? Because that's all I had ever heard about America. And she says, they're neither, they're just very nice people. And I thought, then they must be the people that always are dressed up and they drive cars. How exciting this is going to be. So we went and I bought everything I needed to make the food. And then she said, I want you to be very kind and very nice to them like you are, but I don't want you wasting time. I want you to stay in your place because you are the worker. Well, my place was working at an outdoor hearth stove. We didn't have indoor facilities. They all had hearths. I would begin work between 4:30 and 4:45 in the morning by burning the wood and getting the coals ready. So by 6 or 7, I could start putting the breads and pastries in. My one leg was almost 4 inches shorter than the other from all the surgeries. So definitely I dragged the leg. And I used to have a cloth bag like the bags we now buy to put groceries in. And this bag would have 3 bricks. And I would carry it with me, so when I went to my job, once I assembled all my ingredients, then I would put my 3 bricks down and put my short leg on it so I could stand and do my work. Their friends arrived, and they were such delightful people. I was nervous about meeting them because I thought, they're just going to look at my leg and I'll be the crippled girl to them too. But they didn't. I learned at that age that smiles and hugs are the same in every language. You don't have to say anything else. Just a sincere smile and a hug did it for me. Well, it was obvious that they liked me and I liked them. They didn't speak any Greek and I didn't speak any English, so we hugged every time and we smiled and waved. When it was time for them to leave and come back to the States, they came to see me one morning when I was outside working, and they gave me a candy bar that's like a fisherman, this big. But it was this big, and it was a musketeer bar. I had never tasted candy before. I couldn't believe that I was that special to them that they would give me a whole candy bar. And then I thought, Poppy, they didn't give you the whole candy bar. It's probably take a bite and give it back. So I took a knife and cut a little portion and gave it back. Then they said, no, it's for you. And I just cried because I thought, my goodness, what's such a gift? Well, what I didn't know was that they were more than liking me. They had been asking my boss all about me. And the boss told them that I came from a very good family, a very poor family, and that we all had to work. And the lady said, but that's child abuse, isn't it? Look how hard that child is working in her condition. And they said, well, it may be child abuse in America, but here it's child survival. She could be a tramp, she could be a thief, she could be a gypsy, but no. She's hardworking like all the kids in the family and like her parents. And on Sunday, you know where you're going to find them. The whole front of the church. They said they look like the